Hey everybody, I'm Dane Sanders. I want to welcome you to Fast Track Coaching. I'm smiling because we've done this about 17 times to make the take work, so if we have more technical difficulties, it's on me, not on my special guest, who I'll introduce you to in just a second. If you're new to Fast Track Coaching, this is a brief call. Believe it or not, my guest, it is a brief call, even though this has taken the bulk of forever. Honestly, today's call is really fun for me. It's some Canadian friends on who I think you guys are going to be really inspired by, and hopefully open up some great dialogue. The way to participate is on Twitter, and when you're watching it live in the chat room. If it's on replay, engage any of us directly. We want to help. But the point of this whole conversation is to help move your business and your creativity forward just a little bit. And these two guests today, I think, will really help in that regard. So I want to introduce you to Rob and Lauren Lim from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Welcome, you guys.
Thank you.
And if maybe you could share a little bit. By the way, I should mention you're one of those special guests who was requested to be on the show. Oftentimes, I just get a chance to reach out to people, and I hadn't made your acquaintance before. But Seishu out of Massachusetts, I think he's Massachusetts, East Coast, U.S. somewhere. He's a great guy, and I know you guys know him well. He's a huge fan of your guys, and he really wanted you to be on the show, and so did a lot of other folks once he started the fire burning. But why this groundswell? Who are you people, and why does everyone get so excited when you hear Rob and Lauren?
I don't know. We're no one special, that's for sure. We kind of just got into photography. Started shooting, did that for a while, and pretty early on we got into teaching. Just kind of seemed to happen pretty naturally. People would reach out, ask us questions. We kind of put together little gatherings to chat, and expanded that into the website Photography Concentrate, what we're working on right now. And why are people digging it? You'd have to ask them. But my guess would be that we've always just tried to be really real, pretty open and honest about what we've experienced, good and bad, with photography, and not try to paint an unrealistic picture for people. And I think people can relate to what we've gone through, and so that sort of genuine interchange between us and our readers there's been some good relationships built around that.
Well, I totally appreciate what you're saying. The idea that authenticity is compelling, and the slick way to say it is authenticity sells, and as soon as you try to sell authenticity, you're done. You're not authentic anymore. You don't try to be authentic. Yeah. But there's absolutely something compelling in that, and it's really interesting to me how even just typing into a Google search to do kind of some recon on you guys, I would literally just type Rob and Lauren, and the options were literally Rob and Lauren Photography, Rob and Lauren Edmonton, Alberta, Rob and Lauren Photography Concentrate. And we'll get more to the resource site you guys have created later, but it is amazing and then as people I've talked about you guys and having you guys on the show, and it's just been remarkable how many people have come out of the woodwork and go, oh yeah, I know those two. They're really cool. They made that really cool resource for enthusiasts, or they made those cool resources for pros, and I just like them. And it's been interesting also to go through your different sites and see the cohesive, like it seems like you make it pretty frictionless for people to kind of fall for you. You're really clear in your branding. People know what you're about, what kinds of clients. If I was a client and I was going to your site, I'd go, oh, this is either for me or it's not. And it seems very evident very quickly. Your branding is cohesive and comprehensive. Like the color schemes match, the font type match, like everything just kind of fits. And then that flows right into what I think is a pretty brilliant resource site with photographyconcentrate.com. All of those together seem to be remarkable expressions of who you two are. And even getting to know you a little bit in advance of the show, I'm just really struck by there's a sense of calm. Like there's just you're a little zen-like in your approach to this whole deal. And again, all these things.
We're good at faking it, I guess.
So much for that authenticity crap. No, but in all honesty, this is who you are, and you've managed to find a way to be both integrous in your communication, but also compelling. Like, it's easy to want to pay attention. In fact, one of the things I mentioned off air before that I want to mention on air now is in a sense you remind me a little of Photo Jojo, and those of you who followed me for a while know that I'm a big fan of Amit Gupta and Photo Jojo and all that got created over there, and I think he has a singular voice. It's very clean, compelling, easy, but absolutely in line with kind of what he and that company is all about. And talk a little bit about the journey to get to a place where you're at right now, because it doesn't happen instantly. These kinds of efforts to have a cohesive brand and to deliver on product both for photography clients but also for photographers, that takes a lot of foundation building and building up. Talk a little bit about that process and what it's been like for you.
It's definitely a process. Mm-hmm. I think that's the perfect word to describe it. And it's always an ongoing process. So no matter where anyone is in their own journey, you know, they're doing their process, we're doing ours. We're a little further ahead than some. We're way behind most. You know, we're pretty new at this. So
how long have you been doing it?
We've been full-time photographers for 4 years.
Okay.
And photography concentrate we've been doing seriously for about a year.
Wow. Well, that's remarkable traction in a relatively short period of time, but that year chunks down to months, and the months chunk down to days, and the days chunk down to hours, and the hours chunk down to minutes, and every minute you have 60 seconds where you have to make a decision about what you're going to do. When you wake up and then, I literally, it's so funny, there was a dust cloud that went like this, little dust bunny.
Right in there. Right in there.
I caught it. That's perfect.
That's how it goes.
The one piece of dust in my work environment, and I caught it. That was perfect. Yeah. What is a lot like when you think back on? Because a lot of the viewers who are watching, they might know you and go, "I like what they do on the photography side. I like what they do on the resource side." But in both cases, I'm guessing there are pretty consistent habits that you take on to engage that process, like you're describing. So, talk a little bit about, as you look back, what were some of the things you did right early on, and what were some of the things where you went, "Oh man, in retrospect, what a kind of a waste."
One of the things I think that we do right is that we're always open to getting inspiration from any area. So when we're trying to learn more about how to make a resource site that is really useful for people, which is our number one goal, is to, you know, make good use of time, the time people invest in our site. We go and learn about copywriting. We spend a lot of time learning a lot about copywriting because that helps us.
I thought you guys were photographers. Now you're writing.
I know. That's the thing, right? But we're not. And I don't think anyone is just a photographer. You take in so many sources of inspiration and so many different areas of study to make up one unit of a person, right? You're never just a photographer. And so when
especially as a professional creative, because
absolutely,
but it's striking to me. There's still resistance to that idea. Like, I was just on the phone this morning with a dear friend, Tamara Lackey, and I'm going to South by Southwest. She's thinking about going out as well, out in Austin, and I was telling her one of the reasons why I like going so much is it's not just interactive stuff. It's the movies and music and all these different kinds of concentric circles of creativity, and it's just inspiring for me. I mean, it's one of my favorite events to go to in a year. But it's funny, I'll never be a professional musician, but there's something about the music scene that really inspires what I do photographically, and I'm wondering if there's some cross-pollinating going on for you too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we learned a lot from the Beatles. You know, like, you can learn so much from their story, and I've studied a lot of...
Which story in particular? And by the way, Lauren, you are the better half, but I do want to hear from Rob, because I see him...
So the Beatles, we spent some time last year, like, going through I don't know, was their biography, like, box set?
It's the anthology.
The one that came out on
it's
Apple.
Fantastic. Have you had a chance to see it?
Yeah, well, I saw it when Apple was finally able to promote their products. They did that massive, Steve Jobs did that massive release of everything, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So watching these, I mean, you get an impression of how hard they worked over the course of their career to produce the body of work that they did.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that in itself is just inspiring and motivating to work hard at whatever your craft is, to see, you know, what's capable, what a person is capable of doing in a lifetime.
So you really have that kind of mindset of looking ahead to a whole career, and not just this year or this week or whatever. See, that's striking. I just did this little video on chunking down. People will see this on the blog or whatever, but on having kind of big goals for a year, but then chunking that down to, you know, quarters and months and weeks and days and et cetera. And it sounds like you kind of go up and down that ladder all the time, like kind of having big time vision, chunking it down, going back up, chunking back down. Is that some of the process too?
Yeah, totally. I mean, especially photography, it's a lifelong pursuit, whether you're professional or not. So if you kind of place yourself in that mindset, then you're a lot more open to keep learning constantly. So,
you know, I like that. And when I think about your brand, I mean, you have products for pros, and you also have products for enthusiasts. I'm really impressed with that. The kind of how to learn photography, the tutorial, we talked about that, and I'm doing a project right now for Trey Ratcliff in a similar category as we talked about, and I like your emphasis on the passion for the craft, like to help people take more pictures. Talk a little bit more about that vision and how you want to empower more people to just get behind the lens.
Okay.
Lauren, my favorite part was you actually counted to 3. That was cool.
Give them a chance, you know.
Jump in at the end.
Okay. Well, we found kind of when we got into photography that it really changed the way we saw things. Like, literally, you just see the world differently.
Yeah.
In light and dark and shape and contrast. And then it also kind of helps you be more present on the moment that you're experiencing when you're photographing it. You have to pay more attention, and when you do that, you kind of have a more appreciation, I think, for the little details that make life interesting.
Yeah.
And that just comes through just the act of photography. And so we've met lots of people who have similar experiences and who have been really kind of opened up creatively just by learning to use a camera. And I think photography is one of the most accessible art forms. Painting, drawing, music, they're all awesome, but they're challenging. Photography is
right.
You can shoot and you're creating. It's so easy to create. And so we feel like if we can help more people get into photography, whether or not professional, it doesn't matter at all. I think non-professional photography is extremely important. And personally, I find it more interesting a lot of the time because it's driven through something inside someone, not an external factor like a job. So it's a pretty pure expression, and if more of that photography is being created, there's more communication between people, more understanding, more appreciation, just a lot of really cool things, I think, come out of more photography. So we're just kind of looking to help people do more of that and have fun with it.
That's great. You know, as you're talking about that, I know that you guys are very, not concerned, it's probably too strong, but there are different aspects about the craft of photography that I know that you emphasize. So, for example, you teach a lot on, technique and, for the enthusiast product, how to differentiate between, how does ambient light get affected by shutter speed, and, basic stuff. But at the same time, and especially when I look at your own stuff, your work, as well as even how you project your business, it seems like a lot of it is driven by composition. Like, it seems like graphically, you guys have a real strong sensibility. And I'm wondering if that's true or not. That's just an inkling. And then second, if you think there ought to be a bias as people are kind of learning the craft around, is it more about the technique? Is it more about kind of composition and kind of layout? What do you think people ought to be focusing their energies on?
I think that when we started learning photography, and maybe just in the past, 2 or 3 years, our focus was more on technique and composition and lighting and those sort of aspects of photography. And I think that it's starting to shift more towards the moment and
Content.
authenticity and, am I along the right lines there?
Well,
Totally.
Yeah.
do you think you have to go in that order? Like, do you think as equipment is improving and there's less kind of even a less steep learning curve, could people jump straight to that kind of more, I don't know, thoughtful consideration of what it is you're shooting, or do you think you still got to log your clicks?
I almost think that because it's easier, people do that quicker than they used to.
They do which? The technique?
Just like shooting something that's interesting.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because you don't have to learn aperture or shutter speed or any of that stuff to capture a moment that's interesting to you. You literally like point your camera at it and press the button.
Sure.
And then I feel like there's sort of this time in the photography, life where you kind of learn all the light stuff and learn the composition stuff, and you get really into that and obsessed with awesome composition. And I love composition, and I, like you said, it's really big in our work. We study graphic design and stuff. Like, it all comes into it.
Sure.
But then you progress past that and realize that that's just a part of the image, and what the image is communicating to the viewer is what is at the core of it. And those techniques, composition, that's all just to enhance that message. And so I feel like it's sort of like a timeline, and eventually you get to the point where you're going deeper with your images. And so,
well, okay, so let's get practical with this. So we have folks who are listening in who primarily, and at least in my surveys, have two primary sets of needs. One is the folks that they just want to get better with their camera. And the other group is like, okay, they have a working knowledge of the camera, but they really want to make a buck. Like, they want to figure out a way to really provide enough value where people are holding that value high enough where they want to compensate it appropriately. So if you were speaking to those two different groups in succession, and you want to say one kind of words of wisdom on what you want to do, and let's make a little assumption here, they're all trying to, well, especially the second group, they're trying to do it professionally. But in fact, maybe that's a better assumption. The group 2, they're professionals. Group 1, they may or may not be professionals. But you're saying, look, in the next 90 days, you want them to make a significant jump from where they are to where they wish they were. What would you encourage them to do in the next 3 months to make that kind of a jump? And first, the enthusiasts who just want to get better with the craft.
Enthusiasts?
Sure.
Okay.
So I guess to start off with enthusiasts, I guess you're kind of just talking about improving their photography skills.
Yeah, I guess. And well, what's interesting is, I feel like the longer I'm a pro, the more I want to be an amateur. The more I just want to go back to why I cared about this in the first place and my first love for it, and all those sorts of things. And the more I can do that, it's funny. That's what's most compelling. I'm discovering with my clients, when it becomes less about the transaction and more about the meaning that gets made in the process. So I guess it could be a beginner, but it also could be someone who's just burned out and being like, I want to get back to what I care about. But they only have a 3-month window. So, and you're their coach, and you want to give them some advice. So what do you think?
Well, the way that I would answer maybe both questions, but maybe Lauren will jump in afterwards, is I would say that the answer for both is practice. I think that if you are an amateur or a hobbyist and you want to improve your photography, it's going to be practice. And it might not be as much practice as a professional, 10,000 hours or 10,000 clicks or whatever,
Sure.
But the more that you practice, even if it's just 10 minutes a day or a couple hours a week, you're going to see improvements.
Yeah.
And then at the professional level, I think that it's almost more important. But with the professional level, I think maybe you're talking more about money.
Well, but possibly, yeah. I mean, I think on the business side of things, there's some pragmatics. But even for the pro who they just feel stagnant. They know how it all works, and they have a look that makes them enough money, let's say. But they really want, they're giving themselves a 90-day window to fall back in love with the craft, or they're going to get a cubicle job where at least they get paid something. How do they catch their heart again?
I was thinking about this today, actually, and in that I think there's photography, which by itself is a very interesting pursuit. but I think it becomes more interesting as sort of a portal to other passions, because it lets you document them, explore them in a very visual way.
Yeah.
And so what I would recommend to both groups is to really like do some like soul searching and figure out what is it that like gets you so interested that you'll think about it day and night.
Right.
And then think about how photography can help you explore that and experience it and just become more a part of it. And that's the kind of thing that not only will it let you keep your interest long enough to put in the practice, because I mean, if I had to go and practice taking pictures of flowers for 10,000 hours, I would not have enough interest. Like, I would not get there. Some people, to them, flowers are amazing. And when they spend 10,000 hours shooting flowers, they have the most stunning work that's printed in big fine art photography books. Like, it just really depends on what you're interested in. And so for professionals, I almost think that if you're a professional, like, say, portrait or wedding photographer, part of why you do that is probably because you have an interest in people. And the more you can understand what it is about people that you're really interested in and what your photography really gives to them on like a deep level, you'll start to get a better sense of the true value of what you do. And I think it took us quite a while to really, really understand the value of what we were doing. And once we understood it, it was like we could communicate that to our clients. They understood it. The money thing just sort of worked itself out, and we all had more fun just sort of making something meaningful together.
So tell me more now, just concretely, assuming the craft is a passion and things are moving, they have 90 days to get some traction with their business. Let's assume that they're wedding and portrait people. Pick either one or the other, or both. What would you say to kind of generate a start?
Well, I'll start off, and then Lauren will probably jump in.
Okay.
You've probably read Gary Vee's book, Thank You Economy?
Parts of it, yeah.
Have you read it?
Actually, Gary might be on the show later on this spring if we can swing it, but I've only met him once in person, and he's legit, man. He's for real. I thought he was totally just a slick willy for a while, but when I got to know him in person, I couldn't believe the passion and the work ethic and kind of what really went in beyond just kind of his stick. So I'm a big fan of his. So go ahead.
So in his most recent book, in Thank You Economy, and I guess I won't talk too much about it, but like we really took away the idea of I think how much you need to value your customer. And for us, in a service industry, I think that means providing a really great client experience, right from beginning to end.
But what if I don't have a beginning? What if I don't have any clients to have a great experience with in the first place?
Like no clients,
no
zero.
clients, 90 days out. Like I love what you're saying, and honestly, it's the right answer if I have clients, because that'll kind of beget new clients. But what if it's like, gosh, I just have a dream, and that's it?
Make a portfolio of the work that you want to create with your friends.
Perfect. So I decide on my brand. I get clear on what I want to shoot.
Yeah.
I create that book based on my warm leads. Not making a dime, but at least I have some kind of portfolio. So let's assume I have some of that work now. How do I go out and get more work? Like actually where I get paid.
Right. Well, I'll touch on the brand thing.
Okay.
You did give me lots of very nice compliments on our branding.
Well, I think, by the way, I should mention this first. If you're listening to this and you guys haven't been to Robin Lauren's sites, go there. So is it robinlauren.ca? Is it Robin Lauren or Robin Lauren Photography?
If you go to robnlauren.com,
okay,
then there are links to all of them.
Okay, great.
We had to make a site that had all the links because we tend to make a lot of websites.
Got it. Okay, perfect. But if you're watching this, you'll get more of what Lauren's talking about if you could check that out. But go ahead.
So I've done all of our branding from the beginning. At first, because it's expensive to hire someone, and we were cheap and that kind of thing. And
that never happens in our industry. I've never heard of that. Just kidding.
But branding became something that I was like really in love with the concept of, not just make a logo. That's branding. More like reflect who you are with your brand.
Right.
And so from the very beginning, branding was really important to us. We really took that part seriously, took our website seriously. Contracts were always well branded, like everything was nicely designed. So even though we hadn't shot any jobs yet, people could see that we put in a lot of attention to detail.
So that context really had let future clients feel safe, like you're legit.
Exactly.
There's kind of concrete kind of proofs that you're on
it. It's communicating that you care, right? Like a good, solid brand communicates that you care. And
I like that. In fact, it's interesting to connect the dots between that and what Rob was saying, because it's kind of like a pre-care. Like in anticipation of your arrival, we pre-thanked you.
It really is all about caring. Like the more you care, and I'll drop a book name too, so that I sound smart like Rob.
Uh-huh.
And my book is How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah, totally.
Like best business book ever.
Now what was compelling about that? For me, I've read that book extensively, and I didn't want to read it forever because I thought it was just manipulation.
It sounds so cheesy.
Yeah, and it almost sounds as cheesy as Fast Track Photographer. But it's funny because when I finally picked it up and read it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is totally genius. It is how to maintain neutrality and how to not get hooked by people and how to actually make it easy for people to want to participate with what you're up to.
And that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Like once you start really caring about not only what you're doing, but the people that you're doing it for, so your clients, like if you are trying to care about them as much as possible,
right.
All those little things line up. The branding is just showing that you really care about what you're doing. The experience is showing that you really care about them enjoying like working with you.
Yeah.
When you're shooting with them, oh my goodness, where Rob is like carrying 5 purses and a cooler of water, and like he's just carrying everything when we shot weddings, because we just like really wanted to care for these people in every way, not just with good photos. I mean, that was really important, but every step of the way. So I mean, good branding starts that off. That's how we started. I think how our business kind of jumped. One thing in terms of just marketing is sort of figuring out who your market is. So if you're just starting out, I mean, your market is probably someone who will take a chance on a newbie, right?
Sure.
They might not pay as much as high-end clients as well.
Oh, yeah. And let's be candid. If you're starting out, anyone who pays you any money is your client. But at the same time, it's got to be a race to find refinement, because not everyone is your client. That's just such a chase your tail experience.
Yeah, totally. So, like, when we started out, we were kind of like, who's going to be our client? We're kind of modern, young. We like to have fun. We're brand new. So it was like university students.
Sure.
Totally perfect market. So made these, like, did my best design I could at the time. A little embarrassing now. But what do you put up these posters with a big photo, because we had done shoots with friends. We had a portfolio. We had a website. Big photo, posters all around the university campus. Started getting calls, be like excessively nice and caring whenever anyone would contact us. Because I mean, like, these people are taking a chance on you. Like, you got to respect that big time. And then once you have like one client, you treat them like gold. And then the referral thing starts, and you're on your way. But
don't you guys find that there is this kind of like, you have, on some level, even just this task of the first 90 days, I feel like the first 90 days is every 90 days. Like, there's a kind of a reinvention, because we're a service-based business. If a client comes in, they spend a bunch of money on my portraits this fall, they're probably not going to do it next spring. and even though they might come every 2 years or something like that, there's a sense in which there's always the need to be in the mindset of how do I get more leads in my pipeline, and how do I convert those leads to clients? How do I convert those clients into evangelists to have the referral business to come back around? Do you find that once you hit the referral jackpot, you're all done, or do you find you still have to kind of have this mindset of refreshing your brand and keep assessing and presenting that, winning more friends and influencing more people?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I don't think you ever figure something out and then it's autopilot.
Right.
And if you do, you stagnate.
Sure.
And if you're growing as a person and as a photographer and as a business, you're always thinking of new and better ways to do something that you love and that your clients love. So it is constant reinterpretation of how to do what you do. Do you have anything to add there?
Not really.
No? Nailed it?
Nailed it. So, last question before we're done. If you could wave a magic wand and have the photo industry, because there's a lot of opinion around the industry and kind of what's coming, what's not coming, and what's good, what's bad, is it helpful to share, is it better to hoard, whatever. If you could wave your magic wand and have one thing happen in our industry in 2012 that you think would make our industry a better place, what would that be?
Do we each get to answer?
Sure. Yeah, I'll give you two. That's great. You put all the pressure on Rob. Rob thought he was off the hook.
I already know my answer.
Okay, go for it.
So we're pretty big fans of the library.
Uh-huh.
Tons of free books there.
Yeah.
They're not all
the actual physical library where you can go and check stuff out.
Yeah.
Got it.
So I would say, I'm going to two-part my answer. I would say, I would want to see every photographer go to the library, explore their public library, and maybe focus on photography history. Because I think that there's a lot of really great photographers that have come before us. Maybe they were shooting film. Obviously, they were shooting film. But they've done a lot of really great work, and there's a lot that we can learn from them. I think if every photographer did that, it would be impressive to see what sort of work people sort of riff off that.
That is just pure brilliance. It's funny, my daughter is, so Lauren, I hope your answer doesn't suck, but my daughter is doing an essay. She's 5th grade, and she's doing an essay on the history of photography right now, and I'm so jealous in a sense, but it's that kind of thing is totally accessible. It doesn't cost more money. Anybody can go do it, and I think that's just such a. But it's a matter of seeing it as valuable enough to kind of carve out that kind of space and time.
Yeah.
Anything you'd add, Lauren?
I like that. That was a good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, the libraries rocks. I would add branch out from just photography.
Yeah.
I love reading philosophy, psychology, and I find that kind of stuff helps so much with clients. It's just about understanding people. A camera is far more simple than people. So studying, as much as you can helps you just deal with your clients in a much more beneficial way. And then I guess kind of along that line, my one wish would just be to just for everyone, and it's so hold hands hippie kind of idea, but
like the Beatles. I love it. It's perfect.
I love the Beatles. Just caring more about clients and colleagues, and just the more I feel we've put into caring, the more we get back, exponentially, right? So our site, we're with Photography Concentrate, we're just really trying hard to help, and the benefits that we've gotten and the connections and just the positivity that comes out of that is pretty incredible.
That's great.
So that was mine.
Guys, thank you so much for being on this call. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to meeting you guys in person one of these days. And for those of you at home, you want to check out Rob N, the letter N, Lauren.com. We get all the sites. Or they can go to robandlauren.ca. Or you can go to photographyconcentrate.com. And if you're a photographer, you might as well check out the last site first, photography.
Yeah, that one's a good one.
But again, so glad you guys are. Is there anything else I can kind of make people aware of that they should keep their eye out on? Just go to the sites and they'll find what they need.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's all good.
That's great. Well, thanks again, you guys, and
Thanks so much for having
with all
us.
my technical snafus, and look forward to talking more in the next couple weeks.
Definitely.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Go Canucks.